Good evening and welcome to another episode of Black Boy Joy Conversations. I am Ryan Jones, your host, and I am truly excited tonight about our special guest and tonight's show and our topics. Tonight, I'm super excited about one thought: relentless joy. When I think about relentless joy, I think about a quote that Winston Churchill said once before: if you're going through hell, keep going. And so, that, my friend, is kind of our subtopic or thing that we'll bounce through this week on relentless joy. What is it? What does it look like? And how does it make you feel? But before we talk about relentless joy, I need to say thank you to all of our followers and subscribers and people that have been watching with us the past couple of weeks. This is our fourth episode. I am truly excited about Black Boy Joy Conversations. Black Boy Joy Conversations is about empowering, inspiring conversations about Black boy joy, just as what it just as what it says. There's nothing extra. There's nothing different. It's all about the conversation of what is it. What does it mean to have Black boy joy, and what does it look like? Tonight's so special. We have our first lady ever to join us to talk about Black boy joy. Her name is Tierra Parsons, and we're going to bring her on now just to introduce herself and talk about what brings her joy. Hey, Tierra.
Hey everybody, how are you? You good?
We are so glad to have you. Tierra, guys, is like a sister to me, and um, she is one of those relatives that you see at the family gatherings and cookouts. You don't talk all the time, but you get on the spades table, and you know that that's that one person that's
Right,
going to run you home with them spades and going to win. And
right.
so,
Oh, it's Uno for me. It's Uno for me. So yeah.
Uno. Well, we'll take Uno too. I'm so glad you are here. I'm so glad you're here. We're gonna also bring in our other special guest. You have seen him once. This is his third time coming back, but this time he comes back a whole different person, and that is the person Quintavias King, Esquire. Yes, the Esquire. We must say Esquire. Good evening, Esquire. How are you today?
Hey y'all, I'm blushing, but I'm good. How you doing?
We are good. We are good. We are truly excited to have you here. We're excited about tonight's episode and moving forward. And I want to kick it off. I talked about this week or today's show being about relentless joy. The theme is relentless joy. What does that look like? How does it feel? But before we talk about that, I want to ask you both my number one question I ask any of our guests. What does joy look like to you? When you hear joy, what does it look like?
I guess I can start. Joy,
Ladies first.
yeah. Joy to me means that at the heart of joy, that I have an unshakable awareness about my
Mm,
own ability to show up for myself, to know that God has got me and He's also given me gifts to help someone else. And I get to do that every day. So, regardless of if my circumstances are tough or challenging, I know that I'm going to be okay. That's peace for me. So, that's what that looks like for me. And I want to emphasize the unshakable awareness because sometimes life will try to shake you up. But I know that I'm anchored and I ain't going nowhere. So, that's what brings me joy.
wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, Quintavious, when you think about when I say joy and we think about joy, what comes to mind?
How appropriate is it to say ditto? Because Tierra definitely hit it on the head. I would say for me, it's just choosing me over and over again. I know we said the word relentless, and I think that really hits it. Relentlessly choosing me and myself over and over again. And it sounds selfish, but in different circumstances where different things tug at you and want to kind of take from your joy or take your attention or kind of focus your attention elsewhere, just choosing me over and over again and making sure that I'm not giving out more than I'm taking in, so
Mhm.
that I can have enough to pour out.
Yeah.
Even Jesus took a break. because he gave all that he had all the time, and sometimes he kind of needed to recharge. So for me, it's just choosing me over and over again in different situations, and then being persistent in the journey to joy. Because I think I spoke about it last time about how it's not this linear journey where everything just goes right from here on out. Like things go up, they go down, but being consistent and being constant on the journey and being able to look back and say, you know what? Today's not the best day, but this day last year was much worse. And above all that, even though today's not a good day, today is one day more than yesterday. I made it to today. I'm still going. I'm still pushing. I'm out here. You know, so that's kind of what it looks like for me. Just choosing me and then choosing to keep going.
Right. And to me, it seems like that you aligned yourself with joy at that moment. So you responded to your circumstances in your life with joy. So,
period.
That's amazing. So here's another question for you guys. We got to go back to our show's name. When you hear or see the hashtag Black Boy Joy, what comes across your mind, Tierra?
So the first thing that comes to my mind is an image of a man that seems to be at peace with his life and the world around him. That doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a smile, things of that nature, but he's at peace and he chooses himself. He chooses to show up for himself under any circumstance. That means that he's determined. That means that he is going to do what it takes to respond and prioritize his needs. He's responding to what he needs. That means I'm showing up. So that's what I think about whenever I see Black Boy Joy.
Wow. There's that word again, show up. But what was really super interesting when you talk about peace and determination. Peace and determination. So this week, or tonight's theme is about relentless joy. Relentless joy. You know, and for me, when I think about relentless joy, I think about, acceptance. To me, relentless joy is acceptance. Accepting, and I used to struggle hard with that word acceptance because, I thought acceptance mean that this is saying this is my value or this is what I have to deal with. And through my journey through joy, I'm learning that acceptance is just, it is what it is.
Right.
It is what it is.
You understand that you're enough. You're enough as you are, regardless of the circumstance, that you are enough. And so that's enough to accept yourself, regardless of if no one else accepts you, you're good because you got yourself. So I applaud you for that.
And it's
absolutely
crazy. Like whenever and I just kind of want to speak really quickly about the whole Black Boy Joy because it kind of makes me smile on the inside and the outside when I hear it because it sounds so innocent, it sounds so unadulterated. And I think that for me that it kind of makes me warm because sometimes, and Ryan, we talked about this before, sometimes you have to go so far back almost to the boy, to the origin of when the joy was actually stolen or taken or impeded upon. And sometimes that goes so far back into like childhood and things like that. But there's such a vulnerability in a Black man going back to places that may have hurt him and that may have scarred him in a way that have impacted his joy. So whenever I think about it, I'm just like, it warms me up because I'm like that. It's so innocent. It's so sweet. But there's so much reward there in that space. And for a man to even acknowledge that he's chasing after his Black boy joy, or he's going after his joy, there's something admirable, extremely admirable about that. Because not a lot of men have the strength to be vulnerable. That sounds like an oxymoron, but not a lot of people have the strength to be vulnerable.
That's true.
But
yeah.
I don't know if you want me to elaborate, but being vulnerable.
Yeah, give us a couple reasons, please.
Being vulnerable requires you to pour your heart out, to be judged, to be rejected, to be hurt, to be taken advantage of. So why would anybody want to place themselves at risk for some of those things? But whenever you are brave enough to say, whether you accept me or not, whether you show up for me or not, I am still going to do what it takes to respond to my needs because I deserve, I am destined and called to live an abundant life.
Yeah,
So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
but y'all, I'm not here to preach.
It's okay. You can go there, but I did want to ask also because Ryan, we want to you named the show.
Yeah.
I'm what were you kind of thinking about in naming it Black Boy Joy? Like it definitely pops out and it definitely has a lot behind it for each of us individually. But kind of what was your thought process behind the Black Boy Joy conversations?
So, Black Boy Joy for me, there is a boy inside of all of us, males. Let me refer it to that way. There's a boy inside of us, and um, there is an innate joy that we have as a boy, you know. And I'll also frame it as this: there's an innate joy. There's this unstoppable, crazy, unique joy that we have as children. And so when I thought about Black Boy Joy, I saw the hashtags like I mentioned before, and I think about how my joy is my strength. My joy is, something that I lean into. I find myself having to remind myself, and so it's for me, it's a bridge building the boy and the joy together in my manhood. Um, as a male, in order for me to tap into that true, authentic joy, I have to tap into that boy inside of me to relive that entire place of happiness. And you know, as an adult and as a man, I find that it's achievable when you make a decision that you're going to live in this joy. It takes intention to make a decision to say, I'm not going to let this affect me, or I'm going to choose joy today over this, or be at peace, or to show up. It's a decision. So that was the major thing was just you know building a bridge, making that connection.
Okay.
I don't know. I just feel. When did you realize that you needed joy? Like when did it hit you? Like joy is what you need.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm,
Because there comes a point in your life when you're at a point where you're like, okay, something's got to change, and joy is what I need. So when was that moment for you in your life?
that was probably I could say probably one of the darkest moments, or I thought was the darkest moment. It was last year, April 4th, 2019. Um, what it's like somebody turned the lights out, and you something triggered, and it triggered, and it's like somebody turned the lights out, and I'm stumbling in the room, and I'm like, I need my strength.
Oh wow.
Uh, I once attributed joy was, doing for others and what others' perception was and how others felt. But in that dark place, when I went to go grab my strength, how when you're in a dark room, grab your strength. When I went to go and grab my strength, I found none. And I began to realize that I don't have no joy. You know, there were um, several people in my life that I felt, you know, skirmished or distanced themselves, and it was just in that dark place. What I thought was joy was no longer there, and so I had to find my strength, and so it's a journey for me.
Right, right. That's powerful. And, I was looking at one of the definitions of joy because, it was important for me to really get a deeper understanding. And what I found is that joy is more convincingly a state of mind and an
Hmm.
orientation of your heart. So, how are you positioned in this moment? How is your mind framed around my circumstance? Am I gonna keep going or am I gonna give up? Am I hopeful or am I hopeless? Like you chose joy because joy is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Joy is not, automatically. It comes from God. It's actually in Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10. I'm just, scripture dropping.
Thrown in.
But joy is a choice, and you chose in that moment beautifully to choose joy. I think that's powerful.
That is. I actually, because there may be somebody on here uh, who needs to hear. So, when you kind of realize that you don't have that strength to get that joy, you don't have that joy, and you go on this quest to find it. Sometimes that could be so like intimidating. Like I didn't come so far, like I'm so far deep, like I don't know how to dig myself out of this. How how did you confront that? And is that something that you dealt with wholly, or did you have to break it up in steps? Like, how did you kind of overcome the obstacle that's mostly for most people intimidation, to get to that point of really wanting to be relentless about seeking your joy?
I'll never forget. Prior to that traumatic event, that trigger, um, I was I started therapy, and my therapist said, "Oh, you'll be so much better a year from now." And I looked at her and I just was like, "You're crazy. I don't believe it. Like, whatever." And I remember, I'll never forget. I remember when I was talking to someone about death, and an older church mother, and she had mentioned, moment by moment, second by second, day by day, hour by hour, you will find your strength. And when I stopped looking at joy as a destination and begin to really look at it as a journey, and it's something I have to remind myself on a daily basis that, you know, my joy is not complete today. It's not going to be completed. It's a journey. What brings me joy, like you said earlier, Tierra, it's a choice. And I have to take ownership of that choice. I have to take responsibility. And so I think for me, that's what makes me have to choose a relentless path is that it's a choice. And sometimes I don't feel like choosing it. Let me just be completely honest. Some
Right.
days I
Yeah.
do not feel like choosing it. Some days I want to help my anger out or my anxiety out,
Yeah.
but I know the fruit thereof, and I know what it feels like to live in joy versus, uh, or live in the journey of joy versus when the absence of it.
Right.
That's
That's
good.
so powerful. I mean, I think that for me, whenever I realized that I really needed joy, I didn't have a choice in the matter. I didn't have a
Hmm.
choice. It was literally a matter of life and death. If we really want to be real on this show, because there are some people that are teetering between life and death,
Yes.
and you have to make a choice.
Yeah.
And so I chose life because I was reminded of my purpose and I was vulnerable. And I said, you know what? I don't have a choice but to do the work, the inner work, whatever it takes.
Mm.
Awareness. That's why I'm so passionate about doing this work because whenever you do the inner work, you are bringing a deliberate awareness to what is happening inside of you so that you can understand how you operate in this world. If you do not understand how you operate, then how are you making your choices? How are you setting your intentions?
Yeah,
How,
yeah, yeah.
how are you handling your business? You're not even aware. So once you are aware, you're bringing things into view. I see it, and now I can break it down into more manageable parts, and then I can start showing myself over and over again that I can do it, and that's how my strength feels.
Yeah.
So you chose to do the inner work.
Yeah, yeah. It
That's the hard stuff.
and it's funny you say that because that's really what it is. It's and I often quote this, one of my favorite quotes, African proverb, if there's no enemy within, then there's no enemy without. The enemy without can do you no harm. And I used to be confused by the quote, but then what made it become my favorite quote was I realized if I don't make the choice to choose joy, I cannot have any joy externally. I cannot have any joy outside of me. So that was my moment, I guess.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that Tierra, I'm glad you mentioned for some people that it is life or death, because it is. I shared with Ryan before the point at which I realized that I had to give me some act right. On November 17th, 2019. That was the day. That was also the day that I stopped drinking. But in that moment, like it was a very dark place, and much like Ryan, like I was reaching for all of these things that I felt like gave me strength, and nothing was there. Over the years, I had built up all these mechanisms. So when I felt like I had a joy deficit or whatever, like I could reach over here and maybe get a little some of this. I could reach over here, I could get some of that. I could feel some, even temporarily. If I could get some temporary satisfaction, some temporary joy, and I had nothing, literally. And I remember I had a bad hangover, so I was not in the place to be trying to figure out where to start to get my joy. But in that moment, you said it was life or death. In that moment, my journey to joy literally started in a place of desperation. And I think it's important for people to know that, because it's not always pretty. Like, you don't always like sit down and have your notepad and your candles burning, and you think to yourself, I gotta find me some joy. What is the first step? Like, it's not always that profound. Like, it was literally, I'm desperate, I have to do something, or I'm not gonna be here much longer.
Right.
And in that moment, it was linked to what I wanted to get to as Ryan. For me, that moment was linked to a lot of different things. And one of the first things that I kind of wanted to do was kind of lash out, because I felt like so many people, so many things had stolen this joy. So when I'm sitting in this desperate place, I'm feeling like, I didn't get here by myself. Mm-hmm. There's all these different people that I've given to, and I've, that have contributed to this deficit. And one of the biggest hurdles on my journey was forgiveness. Wow. Forgiveness of other people and forgiveness of myself. So did you feel, when you started to go on your journey and you started to realize that, different things had taken or, contributed to it, how did you kind of deal with the whole idea of people being a contributing factor to you not having the strength that you once had?
Wow. Wow.
Because I want to know.
You have to do it like that?
Because it's a tough question, and I think because you said, let's be real, you said let's be real, and I think a lot of times we want the journey to joy to be, because we're being positive here, like we're wanting to spread all the good vibes and the joy, but sometimes when you realize that people and things have been the source of your deficit, you want to lash out because somebody got you blanked up. Somebody got me blanked up. And so how do you kind of deal with that in a way that doesn't allow you to kind of burden that trauma along the journey to joy? Like, how did you deal with that? And at what point did that kind of come in and set in for you?
I got to write a note. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well,
yeah, I'm gonna take the mic. I'm gonna ask you questions.
That's a journey question. Mm. I used to be so quick to forgive that it was an innate reaction to say, I forgive you, and the facade of forgiveness. Ooh. I was so quick to accept people's belittlement, mistreatment, devaluing, disassociation, whatever people gave me, I felt like I had to take it. And so I felt like as forgiveness, I had to, unfortunately, I got forgiveness and reconciliation confused. I got them confused. And I think that's sometimes what we do oftentimes is that we try to forgive and reconcile in the same moment. And so in this journey, there are some people I really haven't forgiven. There are some people I'm not ready to forgive yet or talk about forgiving until I'm a little bit further in my journey. I just choose no longer to give them the hatred, the validity, the exact that they even exist anymore, or that what they did was that painful. I finally have begun to realize that it's a choice for me. And so, I stopped this blanket forgiveness card that I was passing out. I was just giving forgiveness away. Like, and I felt like people took advantage of that. They felt like, well, he's going to forgive, or and God forbid the church people, especially if they know you're a Christian, the first thing people want to say to you is that, Jesus forgave. And so I had this thing in my mind that if people slapped you, you just take it again. So I just gave this false forgiveness. And so I'm in a space of forgiving myself for thinking that it was okay to accept the stuff that I took, and the abuse, and the trauma. Um, and it all again goes back to when I was in the darkness and being in that you know uh, being diagnosed with CPTSD, which is complex post traumatic stress syndrome. Um, Having that diagnosis, it was a reality for me that it stops when I stop it. It changes when I change it, and so it's still a journey. There are certain people, names, certain things I associate that, I'm no longer now ignoring it. I'm sitting with it and saying, okay, this is why I don't like you, or this is why I haven't forgiven. And I'm not forcing myself to forgive anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. And so I know that there's so many beautiful messages and therapies and thoughts on forgiveness, and I support it. If that's the journey you're in, I support it. But for me, the greatest journey is working on forgiving me and not even choosing to think about forgiving you right now. That's not even in my sphere right now.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Said a lot. I mean, has to come into play.
I needed to hear that.
What I like about what you said is that you are at your own pace, and so we have to realize that in this marathon in life, we're at different places in our life. I know that I may not have been ready to forgive a year ago, or 5, 6, 7 years ago. You know, more so than I am now. I wasn't ready then, but now I'm ready now because I've done the work. I've tapped into my source. I've gotten my strength, I've got my strategy. And so I realize now for me, forgiveness is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiveness is freedom. And I'm not going to associate what you're doing in my life to my work, that you can just steal my joy while you
Mm-hmm.
doing what you want to do and I'm at home depressed. That's not going to happen because I value myself too much, honey, sweetie.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I value myself more than what you're doing. And then I dug a little deeper because I wanted to hold so tight to joy to say, I'm going to consider a benevolent interpretation of a situation. So my interpretation of what happened mattered. I'm not saying that it did not happen. I'm saying that I'm choosing something different. I'm going to show myself something different, as one of my colleagues shared with me. And so when I started showing myself something different, then I started doing things different. I responded different. And then it kind of spiraled from there. So, man.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And I asked that because, like I said, I needed to hear it. The forgiveness thing is it's always a tricky thing. The way that I've dealt with it in my journey, I think everybody deals with it differently. But I think I focus so much on forgiving myself that I'm not really angry or feel anything to the people that I feel like. Because I honestly feel, for me personally, um, I internalized a lot of the abuse that happened to me. And I internalized a lot of the things that I would have had to forgive other people for in a way that I was doing what they were doing. And in a way, I was showing them how to disrespect me. I was allowing them to disrespect me. I was allowing them to invade my space in a way that I would need to forgive them down the road. So in this journey of forgiveness, for me, it's more so of I'm forgiving all of these different things that I allowed to happen, but it's more of an accountability thing for me, in a way that it's not necessarily that and I'm praying on it. I don't necessarily feel like I have to go on this active forgiveness type thing when it goes to different people, because it's like I've internalized all of that, especially in deep, especially romantic relationships. The way that those people, the way that they treated me, the things that they may have said, the wrongs that I think that they had done, there was something that I was exuding that let them feel like they could do that. And then the aftermath, if I, didn't say anything or I brushed it over in the name of love or whatever the case may be, in the name of friendship, like I was telling them that it was okay. The biggest person that I have to forgive, in my opinion, my personal, humble opinion, is myself. So literally the journey that I've been going on is literally telling myself that it's okay and not beating myself up. And when I say forgiveness, a very soft forgiveness, like not beating myself up for letting those things happen, but allowing myself to learn from them all and finally pulling everything out, literally stripping down and pulling everything out that I internalized from the abuse, the neglect, the disrespect and everything, and saying, you know what, that was a different space. That was a different me. And it's okay. It's okay for me to have done that. And then in my journey with Christ, I'm starting to realize now that a lot of what happened to me is so that I could speak to somebody else and let them know that this is what happened to me and this is what it looks like on both sides of the coin. So for me, the whole forgiveness thing is like I've run into people, and I'm human. So, the first thing that popped in my head, I want to be petty. I want to be petty.
Yeah.
Really, I'm on such this awakening, such this journey, trying to get back to myself and trying to forgive myself for the things that I put up with and the things that I let people kind of get away with, that rarely do I even think about what forgiveness would look like for them. Like in conversations like this, I kind of think about it and I'm like, woo, it's a lot of people I should have swung on. It's a lot of people I should have swung on. But literally, there's so much I owe me. I ain't got time. You see what I'm saying? Like I don't have that time. But I like what you said when you were basically saying that comes down the road, because a lot of times people think that, like I said, this journey to joy, it's a positive. It's all, bright lights and bright colors and everything. So it's like, okay, I'm going on a journey to joy. I gotta forgive people. Okay, hey, you know what you did 2 years ago? Okay, I forgive you. And a lot of times it only scratches the surface. But what you said, basically, you're focusing on your journey and all the things that you have to, and you're placing that thing in a way that prioritizes you first.
Right, he did.
And you can forgive them later, down the line, when you better.
And for me,
people need to hear that.
And for me, that also means that I'm standing up for myself more. I really interpreted that scripture, they slap you smite you on one cheek, you turn the other cheek. So I felt as though I should not stand up for myself.
Yeah.
So I begin to now, it's like, oh no, we're not going to do that. I've made a committed stance that I feel what I feel, and some things you can tell I don't forgive certain, I'm not in a place of forgiveness with some things and certain people because of my reaction. And I'm okay with it, because I'm tired, or I got tired of putting on what forgiveness, how you, especially in the South, bless your heart.
Oh yeah.
I don't want God to bless you. And it's my show, whatever. I don't care if you're blessed. I'm not going to give you that energy because, I have, for me, how I interpret me giving you this forgiveness or thinking about forgiving you or having a conversation is, again, putting you on a higher prioritization than myself. And right now, being hurt or being upset with you is what I feel. And I accept that. I own that. I can own my accountability. Again, we were talking, you didn't hurt my feelings. I'm okay. Now I'm on this mantra with myself that I'm now saying it's not about you. It's about how I feel and about my joy. So it's not about you, what you do. It's about how I feel, how you made me feel, and how I feel about the situation. Because what you're thinking about is how you feel, Yeah. And so now I'm really embracing that. It's not about, because when you hurt my feelings or when you hurt me, you weren't thinking about my feelings. You were thinking about you. And whether it be your trauma that caused it, whether it be, intention, whatever the case may be, I stopped trying to study that. And now I'm letting it just be yours.
Right. Ooh.
That's yours.
Ooh. So let me ask you.
That's good.
So that has to play it again.
I like
So
that.
for Ryan and Quintavias, so in the name of protecting your joy, so to give the viewers and listeners some practical tips, how did you establish those healthy boundaries um, with those people and circumstances to kind of protect your joy? Because some people do things differently. So how did you protect your own joy? How do you still protect your joy?
Mm.
Um, I'm gonna say this. Somebody might be mad, but the people who have your best interest at heart understand whatever it takes, whatever boundaries you have to set to protect your joy, they with it.
Hmm.
Even if that means time alone, even if that means immediate, like withdrawing yourself completely for a day or so, those people understand because those people want you to be in a place where um, you can experience that joy, and so that they can pour more into you. How I go about protecting mine is once I realize that place of desperation, once I realized what needed to be done, did it. And I was so relentless, so selfish. And I think that was one of the first times in a long time I had been that relentless and selfish about something, and I'm glad that I did. Literally everything was about protecting that joy and getting back to that space. Because I had seen what it was like all those years not being in that space and giving away joy that I didn't have. And I
Hmm.
had seen spaces where people were still asking of me things that I did not have. So this was literally my time. And after all of those years of giving, all of those years of giving, and not necessarily expecting it back because the person that I am, I'm just naturally a giver. After all of those years of doing that and realizing that it didn't necessarily come back like it went out,
Hmm.
it became easy. And that's not to speak again, because I still had my tribe. I'm extremely thankful for the people who have been with me and my crazy antics
I'm a
over
new member.
the year.
Yeah, yeah.
Welcome, my new member, my tribe. And I want to thank them. But literally, when I got to that point and I was like, okay, guys, this is what's up for the next couple months. Like, this is what I'm doing. Oh, I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm not doing that either. Oh, I'm not doing that. It started literally to open my eyes to some of the relationships that I had been holding on to that needed to be gone because those very things had been sucking my joy dry. And it also opened my eyes to the people who wanted more for me than I wanted for myself. Literally, my friends have been waiting around, waiting for me to get back to a place of joy. But the crazy thing is, you gotta want it. It doesn't matter how much your friends want it, how much other people see you hurting. If you're not ready to go on that journey, it doesn't mean anything. And so when I got to that place and I started putting boundaries in place and I started telling people and being honest too, oh, I'm not feeling it today. Hey, do you want to go to,
Yeah, yeah.
what about this? Who gonna be there? Ain't gonna be able to do that.
Yeah.
And literally, what I expected was some pushback, and people were just like, "Oh," well, my friends were just like, "Oh, okay." Like we'll see you later. So when I protected it, I literally started to lean on things that I hadn't been leaning on before. One, myself, and then two, the people who actually cared enough about me. But I was just, and you spoke to it briefly earlier, I kind of alluded to it, just protecting that space, being relentless about it,
Hmm.
you know, and just trusting that the people who say that they love me show me in a way that says, you know what, we want you to be well.
Hmm. Wow.
But a lot of times people are afraid to kind of take that step and step off their ledge because they're afraid of being in a space where those people might leave or, being lonely and stuff like that. And it's like once you get relentless about protecting that thing and building yourself up,
Matters.
if they ain't here tomorrow, they weren't supposed to be here today.
Exactly.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's kind of how I see mine, and that's how I protect it. And at first I felt bad because I've never been really a selfish person. I was like, that thinking sounds so self-centered. It sounds so
Yeah, yeah.
selfish. Like, how dare I?
It's value.
And literally, it was like, no, that's not. If that's selfish, then what do you call all these years that you've been giving stuff away that you ain't got?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You rather be selfish or you want to keep being stupid? And that was my journey. I ain't speaking for nobody else. I ain't calling nobody stupid, but I was being stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what it was. And so it kind of put things in perspective for me. So anything that kind of impedes or looks like it's trying to take away from that joy that I'm trying to build up or trying to get back, I don't have time for it. It's too expensive for me.
Shut it down.
It's too expensive. I don't have it. It's not in my budget.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't do nothing with that. So that's kind of
Yeah.
how I look at it.
Out of my budget.
It's not in my budget.
I ain't
Yeah.
got.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Ryan? Wow.
I'm learning that this is a stupid quote I once heard. You got to teach people how to love you. I say it's stupid because if you don't want to learn, why am I teaching?
Yeah.
I have a friend. He's crazy because you don't respond to his text, he block you. He don't. You call him on the wrong mood, block, delete. And I'm just like, but now I'm learning to bring that energy over in the sense of, if you're not interested in my boundaries, my peace, or my joy, what are you here? What are you here for?
Wow.
If you're not interested, I used to not do that. I used to just feel like, oh, I got to make sure, and I'm good, I'm strong, and I'm reading a book called Attachment Theory, and one of the things it's talking about is we have the Cinderella. We see those too many Disney movies.
Yeah.
You slave a long time, and then you'll get the prince or the good stuff happen to you at the end. That's not true. We're not living in a Disney world anymore. I really wish they would tell the Grimm stories.
Never have.
But because I felt like if I just be the good friend, that they'll eventually do the right thing. And again, that's where I'm going back to that quote that I'm saying to myself. It's not about you, it's about me. It's about how I feel. I understand. It was Maya Angelou that had the quote, people remember how you make them feel, and how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And I understand that quote to be so true, but when do I internalize and say, how do people make me feel? And if they don't make me feel good, why do I need to serve them anything else? So I even look at some of the crazy people that's out there. Number 45 says and does whatever he feel like it, and there is an audience out there that supports number 45 that
bless them. Bless them.
And so how many times, I'll even said this, how many times do we allow people to be at our table that didn't bring anything, that's complaining about everything that you got at your table? Well, I would have made the macaroni and cheese this way. I would have did this. I would have did that. You know what? There's somebody on the other side of that door that is willing to sit at the seat. Please remove yourself.
Right.
And that's kind of the perception I have now, is that, you know what? I just got to show up. I'm going to serve and who's ever going to choose to eat here at this table, eat.
Because you realize that you're valuable. Your life is valuable. Your gift is valuable. And for me, when I made that revelation, I then reduced the power of those forces. And then my joy rose up as I continued to do my inner work. And I brought anything in front of me to say that I'm more valuable. Like, that's why I keep doing this, because I value myself. You're not supposed to connect your worth with what somebody else does and how they treat you. That's them. That's their issue. So I hope that you get it together, but that ain't got nothing to do with me in the direction of my life. And I will, because that's my belief. I believe that about myself. I'm not going to accept anything from you that contradicts with what I believe for myself. Okay.
And here's another thought, and I'm going back on my soapbox, but that's fine.
Sure,
About forgiveness.
Sure,
You
sure.
know, there is a song that an artist sings that says, "I'm not God." Samu. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he sings the song "I'm Not God," and that song was what really gave me my revelation about forgiveness. God is forgiving. I'm not God.
Mm,
He only tells me love thy neighbor.
mm,
I'm not trying to change the scripture up for anybody or make you believe my theology, whatever. I'm just subscribed to the belief that my loving you is not forgiving you is my way to best way to love you. That's how I'm loving you. Again, I have to take myself out of the seat of God and trying to forgive and do, all this. I'm not God. And when I begin to realize that, I'm finding a lot more peace. I'm not saying I'm in this heaven and I didn't tap into something, but that's my truth is that I'm not God. So I don't have to forgive everything and everybody, except, for myself, but yeah, that's just, that piece is that I'm not God, and I'm only commanded to love,
wow,
Yeah.
wow. That
I don't,
pressure off of you, um,
yeah,
in a sense, you know. Hmm.
yeah.
That
Wow.
that's I think that's something that a lot of us need to remind ourselves of. I think we try to play God in a lot of different situations, especially when we're trying to model ourselves after Christ. But I mean, you're right. Um, Listen, I don't
Mm,
know how the Lord felt about Nuck If You Buck, but it's close and near and dear to my heart. Um, so I've actually reminded myself a lot of times, like it's okay to feel this human emotion because the thing that I've struggled with kind of on this journey sometimes is you know the spiritual peace, positivity, light, all of that, and then nucking if I'm bucking.
Right.
And sometimes it's such a struggle because I'm human and it's natural to feel that way, especially when I feel someone's wronged me or, I feel like, someone has contributed, to my downfall, where I'm having to pick myself up out this big old hole.
Hmm.
But honestly, that piece of honesty and just telling myself, you know what, it's okay to feel that way.
Hmm.
It's okay to be angry.
Absolutely. It's
yeah,
Angry. It's okay to not want to forgive that person right now. It's okay to not want that interaction. It's okay not to want to put myself in that place that says, oh no, but I still want the best for you and I still want it's okay. And the way that I've been dealing with it, like I kind of talked to earlier, instead of letting it go too far and being like, well, I hope you step in front of a moving bus. I focus more on me and the journey that I have to. So that kind of reels me back in. So I allow myself to kind of feel it, but I remind myself, you're not God.
right.
It's okay. Like I'm human. I'm gonna feel anger. I'm gonna feel frustration and disappointment. But setting those guardrails on what I do with it, because if we don't put those guardrails up, sometimes it distracts us from the journey to joy.
Right.
And now, as opposed to focusing on how to push myself towards that joy mark, now I'm worried about you.
Right. Right.
And you didn't messed me up.
Right. Right.
But I think we definitely need to let more people know, excuse me, that be honest first and say, yeah, I do feel like this. I am mad. I am angry. I ain't ready to forgive you right now. But then set those guardrails to say, okay, we got that out. We said it. It was honest. It was true. Next,
Right.
let's
Right.
get back. Let's get back to me.
Right. Right.
Turn that thing back around. That's how I felt about you. I'm done talking about it. Back to me.
Right.
right, right,
Absolutely.
right.
So yeah, that's good. That's good.
So I have another question
Go
Go
on here.
ahead.
that's on the floor. So speaking of Black Boy Joy, um, and as a woman, you know, I aspire to be a wife that is able to show up for my husband and respond to what he needs. And so, from a man's perspective, how can we show up for you when the light goes dim? Because, you know, the stigma is that men don't talk or men don't show their feelings. And so, how can we You might not be able to speak for all men, but you do have that perspective. How can we show up for you when the lights go dim?
Ryan, I'm gonna let you go first because I feel like I'm gonna hurt somebody's feelings.
Y'all forgive me. My contact is like bothering me. Um, hold space. Just be there. Whether it be to let vent, to let express themselves, not to abuse, but to just hold space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things that I had to realize, I'll never forget. I was talking to one of my friends, and they were just really trying to be supportive, and I said, I don't want to hear that. That's not supporting.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get this off my chest. Be there to let me vent. Yes, I have therapists, two wonderful therapists. Right now, I want you to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard. Whether you be male or female, it's hard to hear the person that you love go through something and not want to do something or resolve or fix or whatever the case may be. Um, so that's the one thing that I can say um, is to be there. Sometimes it's like watching a movie. Don't go in that dark room. Turn the lights on, Carol Ann. But you know, does Carol Ann turn on the lights? No.
She does.
Um, you know, but will you be there when the lights come on?
Wow. Wow.
Because I'm the only one that can turn the lights on. I gotta find my joy. I gotta find my strength.
Can you run
And
that back? Can you run that back? You said we need to do what now?
will you be there when the lights come on?
Ah,
Because, again, I'll go back to my forgiveness soapbox. When I do forgive some people, I won't be reconciling.
Yep.
I can forgive you. You never know it. I won't reconcile. I don't have to reconcile with you. That's just it's just my choice, and that's my freedom moment. Y'all pray for me if you choose to. If you don't. But that's just where I'm at. Is that you know, in this space I'm in this joy that I have. Why should you eat at the table? You were the Chicken Little story. You weren't there when I was in my darkest hour. You were so busy in your own world. Again, not knocking anybody, not judging, but I'm just saying that, when those lights come on, because there's always a light at the end of the tunnel,
It is.
and it's, how they say you ride with me with like faux flats or whatever. My ride or die like faux flats tires. You know, not everybody can get in that car with the faux flat tires. So stop trying to put it right. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully that answers your question. That it's the people that show up.
Mm-hmm. Hold space. I love it. What about you, Quinn?
it's a little different. So I'll start by saying, first off, I'm gonna do a little shameless plug. There is no strength, no amount of resilience like the strength and resilience of a Black woman. Um, when I think of how y'all can be there or show up or whatever the case may be, in my life, in my personal experience, Black women have always been there.
Mhm.
The problem has been me. I have not leaned on what has always been there.
Wow.
So in acknowledging, the strength and resilience of the strong Black women that I grew up around, it was up to me to lean on them and to communicate with them in a way that they knew how to be there. And it's different. For me personally, it's different from person to person. I need something different from my mom. I need something different from my sister. I need something different from my best friend. I need something different from an acquaintance. But as a man, sometimes it's hard to communicate those things because we talked about this a little bit a couple shows ago, Ryan. It's so hard to kind of shed this macho facade of I'm supposed to have it together type thing, as opposed to just leaning into that support and leaning into that love. So when you ask me like how can you be there, how can you show up, to me it's honestly how can I communicate to you what it is that I need you to do in that moment.
Come
Um,
on.
if I were to give you a blanket answer and say like I need people to show up this way, like sometimes it differs, and I have to be able to communicate with you in a way that says this is what I need today. This is what I need later. You know, and
hold on, put a pin. But when you communicate as women or your partner, whatever, we have to be receptive.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do communicate, you don't feel like it's just falling down on the ground.
Right.
Yes.
Happen from that. You
know.
So
yes.
That's my opinion.
And that is honestly my experience. And one thing that just keeps popping up, and I give her shouts out all the time. But before I had start liking men's, me and my ex-girlfriend, I give her props to this day, because she was one of those women that I'm talking about. In wanting to be there for me in a space that was unclear, uncertain to me in a lot of different spaces. Seeing things about me that I didn't see about myself, loving me in a way that I didn't know how to love myself. But the one thing I did not do is I didn't lean into it. And I think I could have benefited from that, whether we would be together or not, whatever the case may be. We're still really good friends now, but learning how to just lean into that thing. November, when I went through what I went through, I literally learned the power of leaning. I was leaning on different people who had been there the entire time, people who had been waiting for me to come around. And most of them were the strong Black women in my life. And I literally began to lean, because in that moment, they were stronger than I was. And I was so, and that whole macho, all of that was gone. That was out of here, because they literally had what I needed to nurture me back to the man that they knew that I could be. And all of them stepped up to the plate and got in whatever seat, whatever shoes I needed them to get in. As soon as I said, okay, I'm here, this is what I need.
Wow.
They were there to listen, but I had to break all of that macho, all of that. No, I'm good. No, I'm fine. I mean, I'm good. I'm not having a good day, but I'll figure it out. Like you know me. You know what I'm saying? I get. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be straight. Once I did all of that, and I came, whether it was tears, snodding, and I'm talking about Viola Davis and Fences snot. And showed up in that space, and I told them, I am broken. I don't know what's next for me.
Wow.
I need you to help me, whether it be listening, whether it be telling me about myself in a way, like telling me, like, how did I contribute to this?
Wow.
I was so desperate, and I started to lean. So I will say more men need to, and I'm sorry I kind of flipped the question, but this is just how I feel. I feel like more men need to get to the point that they need to lean. Those influences, Black women, they're strong, they're resilient, they stomach and they burden things on a daily basis that some men cannot. So once you lean into that thing and lean into those women who want to be there for you, and just communicate with them what you need in that moment, in that space, in that time, and then let them be there. Let them, both of y'all, be receptive. Both of y'all listen. Make it a two-way street. And I think that's what's necessary. So it's not so much of saying, this is how I need you to be here. Like you said, hold space.
Wow.
But on the flip side, in that space, you be vulnerable in that space and let her know exactly what it is that you need from her.
Wow. Absolutely. Listen.
And that's my personal experience.
All of that was good. And I appreciate you for sharing that, because it gave me so many revelations. And although I am not the host of this show, I do have a challenge for those who are listening and watching, is to take some time to find your joy mantra, what you are going to speak over your life. And so there are a few things that you have to take into consideration, and I'll go through them really quickly. Is to explore self-awareness, to be honest and vulnerable with yourself. It's 5 of them. So 2 is self-love, meaning that you will prioritize yourself. Number 3 is self-assurance, being confident in your ability to overcome whatever obstacle is in your way. The next one is self-preservation, meaning knowing your limits and honoring your needs and radiating your light. Self-preservation doesn't mean that you're sitting around doing anything. It's knowing your limits, honoring your needs, radiating your light in the dark. when no one's there to pick up the phone, whenever sometimes God or whoever you pray to seems far. And the
Mhm.
last one is self acceptance, acknowledging your strengths and all of your abilities, just as you are. And those are the things that you speak over your life whenever it applies to be your own personal mantra to say that I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to show up for myself every day and respond to these circumstances with joy. Whether you are here or not, I'm here for myself.
Mm. Wow, that is so powerful. I'm glad you said that. That was, I was getting ready to ask you what would be something you leave us with. People listening, if you're watching, that was some good homework. Our in-house therapist, our inner work therapist has
Period.
come on.
So glad I'm
Seriously.
for y'all tonight.
I'm really appreciative, but you have set the tone and given us some homework, some marching orders to find your joy mantra. So we'll try to put that out there this week and promote that. What is your joy mantra? Um, Before we go, I want to extend time for you, Tierra, to tell people about you and what you do, how they can reach out to you, and do the inner. They need to follow you first of all about this inner work that she's doing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and we're going to be doing. This is not the last time people will see her. We will have her on here on as much as we can, because again, Black Boy Joy conversation is not just about black from the black male perspective, but from the outside perspective, how you view us and how we're viewed, what we could do and
right,
our vulnerability. So
right.
please tell us a little bit more, how we can find you and what you're doing and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So really quick, so on Instagram, you can find me there at Tierra M, as in Michelle Parsons, Tierra M Parsons. There you will find all of the inspirational posts and devotionals that you can use on a daily basis to tap into the areas that you might need to develop to give you that strength to move forward every day. Um, and I've been in the field for over 17 years doing this work, working with people. I love the work that I'm doing now on the campus of Johnson C. Smith University as the director of counseling, working with our scholars there, just really being available for people individually to kind of help them along their journey on my personal path. And so with what I'm branding now. And so I just encourage you all just to reach out if you need me or if you need a resource. It's okay to say we've spoken about it tonight that it's okay to seek therapy or a mentor or a prayer partner, somebody that can listen to what you have to say so that you don't feel hopeless, that your light does not stay out, does not go out. And so I look forward to connecting with you all. And as the First Lady of Black Boy Joy, I look
Yes,
forward to coming back.
We
Um,
love to see it.
and I'm
awesome, awesome. We have Charlene Stewart. Seriously enjoyed this. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Dr. Khalil. Thank you, Gary. Thank you all for your love and likes. We gotta hear from the Esquire. We
we
gotta hear from you. And y'all pause for a second. I apologize, Esquire. We had the wrong graphic up for you, but we gotta hear from Mr. Esquire. And I please tell us about your journey in this that post you made. Oh my God, where you told he was Esquire. Last time he wasn't a lawyer, y'all. Now he's a lawyer.
woo!
I'll try my best to make it quick. So I've shared before about how tumultuous last year was for me. It was all over the place. When I took my exam first in February and I did not pass. And shortly after that, when I found out I did not pass, I went to the doctor and was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. So I was like, Lord, not me. Depressed, what? So I was distraught about it because the type of person that I am, I've always taken comfort in the idea that, I have a strong mind. Like everything else could be falling apart, but my mind, that's my sanctuary. I could go in there, I could retreat, I could think up a game plan and come back out swinging. And for the first time in forever, that was where I was under attack. The enemy attacked the very thing that I held close. And so I didn't know what to do. I had already signed up to take it again and all of this other stuff, but I was like, who gonna take a bar exam under depression? Who? But I had already signed up. The money, the check had cleared. Okay, the check cleared.
Okay.
So I was like, somebody gonna take this exam. Literally, the first time I had done all this studying, and the second time, people think I'm joking when I say the second time. Literally, I was so burdened with depression, anxiety. I had been drinking every other day, and I did not study. I just didn't have the energy, and I wasn't even gonna take the exam the day that I was supposed to go down and take the exam. And this is all while I'm trying to figure out like what's going on with me. I had went on a pescatarian diet because I was like, Lord, something's going on. Like, am I depressed because I gained weight? Like, is it? And then I read an article that said your gut was connected to your mind. So I was like, my gut messed up, Lord. That's what it did. It was a lot. So the day of, I was like, I'm not gonna take it. I can't. And literally, this is kind of funny, but not really. And y'all don't judge me. My lights went out.
It's all right. Sometimes the lights go out. That's all
right.
right.
Watching TV, I was binge watching a show on Netflix because when you in that dark place, sometimes it's all you can do is binge watch TV. And I was sitting in that dark place like, I'm just not going to take it. I'm going to disappoint people anyway. I'm probably not going to pass. I already failed. I have not studied a lick. I don't have the energy. I'm not doing anything. And Duke shut me off.
Duke said,
no more.
I forgot. Can you believe I forgot to pay them folks?
Wow.
So they shut me off, and I forgot to pay it. And I was like, oh, dang, I forgot because everything else had been going on, and my mind was not mine anymore. And I forgot to pay. So I went on and paid, but the lights weren't going to be on for another couple hours. So I was like, you know what? I may as well just drive to Raleigh and take this little test. So I drove to Raleigh, literally studied on the way there, went over the little flashcards that I had, got a little, I think I was in like the Red Roof Inn, got a little quick little room. The Red Roof. Got a little room, stayed in there, studied that night with a headache because I don't know. So when you're depressed and you're dealing with anxiety, sometimes one of the symptoms is like an extreme headache. You can't focus for long periods of time, and it probably didn't help that I was hungover, but couldn't focus. But I'm studying. I'm going through. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take it like it is what it is. I signed up for it. Like, what can it hurt? So I went in, I took the exam the next day, didn't expect much at all. Literally sat down, and the jitters that I had the first time, I ain't had none of that. I was like, I'm just excited to be here. What's that? What's that? You know what I'm saying? I'm just excited to be here. Took the test, drove back, didn't think anything of it, popped some bottles, and just didn't expect anything. So when I got my results, the second time I was like, it's probably gonna be like the first time, like, because the first time it wasn't even high enough to pass in another state. So when I got my results this time, I opened my little letter, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't even recorded this time because I was like, it's probably a fail. So I just opened my little letter, at my little desk. I say, hold up. So I was kind of disappointed because I didn't get the score. I was literally a few points shy of the score that North Carolina required. But one, it was higher than the first score. Mm-hmm. Two, it was high enough for 5 jurisdictions, and I had already been thinking about moving home.
Wow.
So I was like, I could still apply for a license, move home, be closer to home, be a licensed attorney. You mean to tell me?
Right. Right.
And so literally I mulled over that situation so much, like, Lord, what does that mean? The one thing that I will say, even through the alcoholism and all of that, I've kept my relationship. Maybe it's wavered a couple times, but I've always kept my relationship with the Lord because I know that is something the enemy attacks, but that's not something that he can take over. I felt like he was taking over my mind, but my relationship, that was something that I could still control. So I was like, Lord, like what, like literally, like why would you put me in that position? And literally, so many things in my life I felt like I could control, and I felt like I had done something to bring me to that point. That was one of the biggest things to happen to me, where I felt like I had no control and I had no other choice but to give credit where credit actually belonged, which was to him. Right. And literally, it was a gut punch, and it was a check for me, because what it said in that moment was, even when you don't feel like showing up, I always will.
Wow.
So the crazy thing is, and I told my mom when we were talking about it, we shouted all on the phone, and I told her, I was like, the crazy thing, while I was sitting there, and I was like, Lord, I can't do this. I'm close to tears, and I can't do this. He said, you know what? If you move, I'll move.
Wow.
And I said, okay, this sounds crazy. I ain't studied at all. I'm gonna go take this. What you mean, Lord? What the huh? He said, if you move, I'll move. And the crazy thing is, my movement wasn't nothing compared to his movement.
Right.
And that was a reminder for me, number one, that he's always there. He's always going to show up, but he'll always move on my behalf as long as I move. So on this journey to joy for me, and I shared with y'all earlier that today hasn't been the best day for me. But even when I have down days and stuff like that, if I move, he'll move. So whether it's just getting up out the bed and brushing my teeth, whether it's just getting up and choosing to be present in the moment, to be present in the day, something in the back of my mind is so solidified now. And it's not just that instance, but it's so solidified to the point that says, if I move even a little bit, he's gonna move. And so that's what helps me. And so now I'm a licensed attorney. So I put my application in after I got my results. Shortly after that, like I had planned to move home. So I was like, I'm gonna go to Missouri. It's 4 hours from home. I put my application in. I was still kind of unsure about it. And it took a little minute because I had to do some waiting and some investigations. And when you're doing that, they ask for the blood samples, hair, all of the things, fingerprints. So it took a little while, but it came in right on time. Wow. And when I think about the story and I think about like how everything happened, it was just so crazy. But it gives me reassurance in all of the uncertain situations. Before all of this happened, before I went and got diagnosed with depression and all of that, I was under the impression, I had my relationship and I knew God was all controlling, but I was under the impression that I had more to do with my success than I really did. And that mindset is what was keeping me bound for so long. Because even in those places, I didn't feel like I needed to go on a journey to Black Boy Joy because I still had my mind. I could still control how I let people treat me. I could still control my situations. And if I couldn't control that, I could control the narrative.
Wow.
But everything literally had fallen apart. Everything had fallen apart. And so what that situation taught me is that all of that stuff had fallen apart. He was still in control.
He was.
And worked that thing out on my behalf. And so I don't know what it is like for other people. If anybody else struggles with having a control complex and struggles with letting go, but that was the single most important thing that I had done over the past year is to literally let go and let him do his work and let him do what he told me he was going to do and trust in that. And now you sitting here and I still can't believe it. I got the license on the wall, but I can't believe it. So now I'm sitting here. I'm a licensed attorney. I'm excited to get to work. I'm excited to I can do some things, but not other things because I'm still a new attorney and it's licensed in Missouri, whatever. But I'm excited to do the work, and I'm honestly more excited about the story. To be completely honest with you, I'm excited more about telling the story because it's crazy how I got here and yeah.
I'm proud of you. Well, what I
Congratulations.
God responded to your faith.
Yeah, because that's what I had
all you needed was a small amount of faith, and he responded in a big way.
Yep.
So his story is a testament to those who are listening to say that all you need is a little bit of faith in your circumstance, and he will give you access to what he will bless you so that he can get the glory. So don't give up.
And so that's with anything. That's with licensure. That's with this journey to joy we're talking about. Literally, if the only thing you have left is faith, you got more than enough.
Exactly. And faith moves what?
Mountains.
Listen, y'all are not going to preach like that on here.
Okay.
Don't give me credit because I done already shouted. Me and my mama done cried and we done all the things, but when I tell this, like I get so excited because somebody is in that place that I was in last year. And somebody needs to hear that faith faith, whether you feel like your faith is active or inactive, whether you feel like you've been praying like you need to or not, if you got faith, you got more than enough. If you can at least say, I'm going to take my hands off of it and let him do exactly what he said that he was going to do. And that's the thing. He's already said that he was going to do it.
Right.
What you doing?
What do you believe? What do you believe?
You know what I'm saying? Like, he already told me that he was going to do it a long time ago.
Right.
In the moment that I actually said, you know what, I'm so doggone tired of fighting, Lord. Go ahead, have at it, put the gloves on, because I'm tired. I literally don't have anything to give to the situation. And the little movements that I made, the little effort that I put in, I consider it to be little, especially compared to what he showed up and did. That was all he required of me. And it seems so intimidating sometimes when we go on these journeys of faith and joy, because you think it requires so much, but the initial thing, sometimes all he needs is that little bit.
Just a little bit.
That little bit. Just saying, I put my hands up, Lord, I trust you, you got it. Letting go of your control complex, letting go of thinking that you have more to do with the situation than you do, letting go of the idea that if I don't have something to do with it, I can't control the outcome. It's not your outcome to control. He didn't already dictated your end before you got to the beginning. So getting to that point, for me, it gave me reassurance. And this year, like, one of the reasons why I've been so relentless in this journey is because I know I can't fail, because I know who I got on my side.
Right.
So a lot of my joy is attributed to that, not just that situation, but how he showed up for me time and time again and loved me in a way that listen, you got to love somebody who loves you more than you love yourself, period. I was now throwing them drinks back. I wasn't ready to take no bar exam. I wasn't ready to go on this journey to joy. I didn't think that I needed to go on this journey. I thought I was fine. Everything was coming together. Everything was fine.
And then you did it. Congratulations. We're so again so proud of you.
I'm gonna just stop because I'm getting warm.
So proud of you. So very proud of you. And I'm so proud of the work you're doing. So proud of the work that my sister Tierra is doing. I'm so proud of those that are just living in their joy. Those that are with us this time. Thank you for sharing and commenting and providing feedback. I'm going to give just another 30 seconds for anybody that wants to come in and share some feedback, so that our guests can respond to it. We're going to definitely have them back at some point, especially Tierra. She's stuck with me, and Quintavias, both of you guys are part of my tribe. So you'll see them real soon again. If you have a comment or a like or something you want to say specifically to them or a question, I want to give time for those that are watching us. Feel free to do that. While we do that, I want to tell you about the candles that I've made, Black Boy Joy candles.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that it gives me joy to make these. And so they are available on the website, blackboyjoyconversations.com. Get you one. Light your match.
Real good, too.
You'll have to
Thank you.
Too.
Yes, you have one coming. And so this is out of my abundance of joy that journey for joy for me that's happening. And I also want to invite you guys to join me this Friday. I'm going to do something else crazy. I'm going to do a live in-person live Friday with a friend, Lamont Mason. So we're going to see how that works. This is earlier before we started the show, Tierra and I were talking about being stretched.
Yeah.
And how the need to be stretched and how your joy is being stretched. And so I'm super excited about what's going to happen on Friday. So we'll have some advertisements, stuff like that. You can catch the rebroadcast of this, and we don't have any comments yet so far outside of what we had earlier. Thank you all for what you do and support and love and sharing and all that good stuff. I want to say one last comment before I do. I want to see if Tierra, do you have another comment? Quintavias, do you have another comment before I?
I just wanted to say I see a lot of people said like congrats, and I just wanted to say thank y'all.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And just thank you, Ryan, for creating this space for us to have this open dialogue. It's very much so needed. Love you very much, and love you, Quintavias. So glad to have met you, and let's do it again sometime soon. So
please,
yeah,
absolutely, of course. And I want to say this, just before I say last comment, find your mantra, find your joy mantra as homework. And Tierra, I'm going to sum it up. You said explore self awareness. Explore. It should include explore self awareness, self love, self assurance, self preservation, and self acceptance. Your
Right.
joy mantra should include those 5 things. We're going to try to get that posted up real soon. But I want to say this: life is tough, and you are tougher. Life is persistent, and you're relentless. And so just remember that your joy is relentless and have a relentless week. Thank you guys.